forever.
You will not believe how amazing these scoring performances were for the Los Angeles Lakers. In today's video, we're going to go over some of the greatest scoring performances in Laker history. Let's start this off with the most notable scoring performance of all time, Kobe Bryant's outstanding 81-point outburst against the Toronto Raptors back in 2006. The Los Angeles Lakers found themselves down by 14 points at the half, with that deficit only increasing to 18 about midway through the third quarter. That was when Kobe began to turn up his game to an entirely different level. He scored a whopping 55 points in the second half of action alone, with 23 of those points coming in the final 9 minutes of the ballgame. Bryant shot 28 for 46 from the field, 7 for 13 from behind the arc, and 18 for 20 from the free throw line. In this game, it didn't seem like there was anybody at all that could have slowed down Bryant, as Toronto threw everybody they had onto him, and he still exploded. Jalen Rose being the most notable defender of Bryant in that game, he still gets knocked around about that performance to this day, and I'm sure he remembers it very clearly. When people ask Rose what happened that game defensively against Kobe, he simply responds with, "We held him under 100. Side note, if you were ever wondering what Rose's stat line for this game was, he shot 3 of 11 and only put up 17 points on the day. Next up, we have the 71-point game from Elgin Baylor. He put up an insane stat line in this game, which saw him snag 25 rebounds as well. Many people may not realize this, but this performance by Baylor was almost unheard of during his time as a basketball player. It was widely recognized as one of the greatest scoring performances in the history of the National Basketball League. Well, until Wilt Chamberlain came in and dropped 100 points. He was able to put up these numbers against the New York Knicks back on November 15, 1960, and it's been named his best statistical performance throughout his career. Baylor was a cornerstone for this Lakers team a long time ago, and happens to be very underrated in the minds of Laker fans around the globe. Throughout his career, Baylor grabbed 11,463 rebounds for the Lakers, with that number being the most in franchise history for one player. Now he's a member of the NBA Hall of Fame and was able to make an appearance in 11 different All-Star games. Now we finally come to a Wilt Chamberlain game. On January 26, 1969, Chamberlain was able to score 60 points and grab 21 rebounds throughout the Los Angeles Lakers game against the Cincinnati Royals. The Lakers were able to win the game 126-113 after picking up an early 31-28 lead in the first quarter and never looking back. They maintained that lead throughout the rest of the game, with Chamberlain putting up big numbers every step of the way. He was able to put in 22 out of his 36 field goal attempts to go along with 16 free throws, although he did miss 8. Arguably, the most surprising stat in this matchup was that Chamberlain's season high was only 35 points. I guess it's safe to say he surpassed that number by a large amount here. That season, Chamberlain averaged just over 20 points a game while picking up 21 rebounds per game. The Lakers were able to finish that year with a fantastic 55-27 record, but unfortunately came up short in their aspirations for a championship, losing to the Boston Celtics in the NBA Finals in a series that went the full 7 games. Unsurprisingly, we have yet another game that features the late Lakers legend Kobe Bryant. On March 16, 2007, Bryant was able to unleash a 65-point performance against a very young Portland Trail Blazers team. The Lakers were able to come out on top due to Bryant's performance, winning the game in overtime 116-111 and snapping what was a 7-game losing streak for them. But not only was Bryant able to put up points consistently throughout the night, he was wildly efficient. He shot 23 of 39 from the field, 8 of 12 from beyond the arc, and 11 of 12 from the free throw line. In normal Mamba fashion, Kobe put up 33 of those 65 points in the final 14 minutes of the game, willing his team to a victory when there didn't seem to be an answer for his hot shooting. If you couldn't guess, Bryant played almost the entire game and rarely came out of the ballgame in the second half in order to keep his team competitive. Kobe poured on 7 rebounds, 3 steals, and 3 assists as well in this game, while the next highest scorer on the team for this matchup was Lamar Odom, only putting up 15 points. Here's another fun fact about this scoring performance. Kobe was able to follow this game up with one of the best scoring streaks ever by an NBA player, putting up 50 points against the Minnesota Timberwolves in their next game, 60 points against the Memphis Grizzlies, and then finally 50 points against the New Orleans Hornets. That would be 4 straight games of 50-plus points, as Bryant was doing all that he could to try and get his team to the postseason and fight for another NBA championship. Elgin Baylor finds himself on this list yet again, as he was able to put up 61 points on April 14, 1962. Baylor was able to set an NBA postseason record with his 61 points, even though that record is more than likely to be broken today, but still impressive nonetheless. His scoring outburst was enough to lift the Los Angeles Lakers over the Boston Celtics 126-121 in Game 5 of the NBA Finals. Baylor was able to knock down 22 of his 46 shots throughout the game and nailed 17 out of his 19 free throws as well. This game also saw him set another playoff record as he scored 33 points in just one half of basketball. Baylor is arguably one of the most underappreciated players in Laker history, and games like this just further prove how dominant he was back in his playing days, breaking records left and right. Jerry West is another all-time Lakers great, and he finds himself on this list as well, putting up a 63-point performance for the Purple and Gold against the New York Knicks back on January 17, 1962. The team was able to squeak out a 129-121 victory over the New York organization, and West was able to take the record of most points scored in a single game by a guard. That record has since been broken, as there have been other guards who have put up higher scoring performances than that, but it's still a wildly impressive game. West was able to cement himself as the team's #1 option that season. He led the team in points scored per game with 30.8 and was averaging just under 8 rebounds and 5.4 assists per contest. Those stats were enough to grant him All-NBA first-team honors that season, and well-deserved for the longtime Laker legend. West may have stuck around for a while longer in the NBA, but felt the need to retire once injuries lowered his level of play. West has stated that he had set such high standards for himself that he would never dip below them. Once he knew he was still battling injuries and wasn't able to be as effective as he wanted, he called it quits. He still remains a key member of this organization and has scored tons of points for this franchise over his career. This isn't going to come as surprising news for a lot of you, but this next scoring performance is also by Laker legend Kobe Bryant. Bryant was able to put together a masterclass in scoring the basketball on December 20th, 2005 against the Dallas Mavericks. This is the Mavericks team that consisted of Dirk Nowitzki, Josh Howard, and Devin Harris, among other all-star caliber players. They were one of the best defensive teams in the league at the time due to their length and flexibility at the wing position, and it led to them picking up over 60 wins and reaching the NBA Finals. Earlier, I mentioned his 81-point performance against the Toronto Raptors. Well, this game occurred just 1 month before that, and in the same season. Kobe put up a whopping 62 points against Dallas, and in just 3 quarters. The team was able to win the game 112-90, with the game being locked away for the Lakers by the end of the 3rd quarter. That was when the coaching staff asked Bryant if he wanted to rest the 4th quarter or continue to play and attempt a career high. Kobe simply said no, and the staff rested him for the duration of the game, ending his night with only 33 minutes. Kobe shot 18 for 31 from the field and was able to sink 22 out of the 25 free throws he attempted in the game. He ended up scoring more points in those 3 quarters than the entire Mavericks team was able to in that same amount of time. It was yet another fantastic scoring performance for one of the most gifted basketball players in history. Lastly, we have one of the most dominant big men in NBA history, Shaquille O'Neal. Shaq was able to drop 61 points in a game that saw the Los Angeles Lakers pitted against the Los Angeles Clippers, their rivals, on March 6, 2000. It happened to be Shaq's 28th birthday as well, and boy did he make the most out of it. O'Neal was able to put in 24 out of his 35 shots from the field and shockingly drained 13 out of his 22 free throws throughout the contest. Not to mention the fact that he came down with 23 rebounds and even dished out 3 assists. This match ended up going down as one of his greatest regular season performances ever, and is still written as one of the best Laker games of all time. Luckily, the Lakers were able to pull through for a 123-103 victory against this Clippers team, giving Shaq an amazing birthday present on top of his scoring excellence. Shaq ended up securing the MVP trophy at the end of the season as well, solidifying an outstanding year for the Laker legend. Make sure to leave this video a like down below, and click the video that appears on your screen now to keep watching.